one niche in programming that I personally have no experience with is building mobile applications. Well, luckily today we have an expert to teach us all about it. Timirah James, who is the founder of TechniGal LA and a developer evangelist, will be teaching us all about it. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Ladybug Podcast. I'm Kelly.
I'm Allie.
And I'm Emma, and we're debugging the tech industry.
AWS Amplify is a suite of tools and services that enables developers to build full-stack serverless and cloud-based web and mobile apps using their framework or technology of choice on the front end.
Using Amplify, you can quickly get up and running with things like hosting, authentication, managed GraphQL, serverless functions, APIs, machine learning, chatbots, and storage for files like images, videos, and PDFs.
Amplify is built especially in a way to enable traditionally front-end developers like myself to be successful because they can use their existing skill set to build real-world full-stack apps that in the past would require deep knowledge around backend, DevOps, and scalable infrastructure.
The Amplify console then allows you to use a GitHub repository to deploy a globally available CDN with CI and CD built in.
To learn more, visit aws-amplify.github.io. Are you a developer looking for your next challenge? Meet Shopify. They're on a mission to make commerce better for everyone, and they do things a bit differently. They don't tell you how to solve problems. They give you the tools, trust, and autonomy to build new solutions. They don't want you to work alone. They're structured so you can leverage the diverse perspectives across teams in everything you do. And they don't pretend to have all the answers. They're big enough for you to tackle problems at scale, but small enough for you to discover and solve new problems. If you're a builder at heart who wants to solve highly technical problems, if you want to take all of your life experiences and apply them to a blank canvas, or if you want to access really powerful tools, Shopify is the place for you. Visit shopify.com/careers today.
Timirah, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you and to learn all about mobile dev. Because as we were saying in the pre-recording slot, Emma and I have no idea about mobile development. So this will be big for us. And we can ask the beginner questions and they will be super genuine because we genuinely have no idea. First off, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely, yes. So, first of all, thanks for having me. Love the show and love all of you ladies. Emma, I think we met in Amsterdam at a conference once. We met in Amsterdam.
Yes,
I had a great time in Amsterdam. I think that was, I forget what conference that was, but it was...
It was Friend and Developer Love, VJS.
VJ, yes, absolutely.
Amsterdam.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so the podcast has definitely grown from then. So thank you so much for having me. So
Thank you for coming.
First and foremost, who am I? Timirah James. I am the founder of TechniGal LA, as you mentioned. And basically, TechniGal LA was a meetup group that I started with my family here in LA just for women. It was typically actually for younger age girls. So like in the high school age range to kind of get them into STEM related things. And then next thing you know, we had like women who were like in the midst of like career transitions coming through. We had like stay-at-home moms coming through. And then we had college students coming through. So it was just like, now it's like, women of all ages coming into just have employment opportunities, learning opportunities, networking opportunities, mentorship opportunities, just in STEM and excelling in tech. So we do that here in LA, hoping to expand. We actually just moved into our nonprofit status, which is a huge deal.
Congrats.
Thank you. So I am just really ecstatic about that. And, it kind of goes hand in hand with just me building communities and really being deeply embedded in the developer community, which rolls over into my other title, which is a developer evangelist. So, everything from, speaking at conferences, giving technical talks at different tech events and developer-based events, which is now turned virtual, of course, but, giving all kinds of workshops, connecting via meetups, just basically doing things to make developers' lives a lot better and, using different, just cool platforms and technologies to, introduce to the developer community in order to like make their workflow a lot more convenient. So I definitely love what I do.
That's great. Well, we're thankful for you too, because anything that makes our lives easier is very great.
Yes.
I'm curious about your path to becoming a developer, because I know like when I was in school, I didn't learn about mobile development at all. I didn't know it was a career field. So could you tell us a bit more about how you got into evangelism and iOS development?
Yeah, just my path to tech was definitely a non-traditional pathway. Just first of all, I didn't come from a tech based surrounding, so there wasn't a lot of STEM, influences around me. But I was more based actually in the entertainment realm. So I was a little bit of a child star. I was like performing, singing all over. I was singing at Madison Square Garden. I was, my mom was my momager. I mean, we had the whole nine.
Momager.
We had the whole nine going, so raised in New Jersey and then moved to Atlanta. And it was in Atlanta where I kind of caught the STEM bug. So I went to a performing arts high school. I ended up around my junior year. I ran into a flyer that said, "Hey, we are looking for high school age students to basically be high school interns at these tech companies throughout the metro Atlanta area." And, and I saw all these different keywords. It was like, oh, web design, web development, this and that. And I'm like, what? I'm like, this is, and I say this every time I tell my story, I have to tell this part, like, of this trait that I had. I'm so blessed to have the trait of curiosity, basically being at least once you're 5% interested in something, like just looking into it. At the very least, just look into it. And that is what pulled me towards there. And I was just like, wow, I think I need to try this. And they're like $1,000 for the summer. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to try this. That was a big deal at like 16, 17. So, so I tried it I did it for 2 summers. I was a web designer, and then it turned into web development. And that was the most productive 2 summers that I've had. It was so eye-opening to just see all the opportunities in STEM. And I was just so attracted to it. And I was just so excited about that. And I was like, you know what, this is the route I want to take. I had done so much in music, and music was still my number one love and passion. And, I was in the right mind to just go forward with that as my primary career. But I always said I never wanted to go to college for music. I wanted to go to college for something else. I needed something as like something that was going to be a solid skill for me outside of music. And I was just like, computer science is it. So I basically had a whole roadmap planned out for myself in my mind. I said, okay, computer science, but what am I going to do with that? So I'm thinking, great, go to college for computer science, graduate, and what do I want to do? I think I want to go straight into mobile development. This is after doing research and, really looking into like what are the other outlets when it comes to STEM. And I was just like, I want to go into mobile development. And the reason why is because, at that time, I saw where the technology and the phones were going. At that time, I think we were still on flip phones. The cameras were new. We were like, oh my goodness, you got the flip phone with the camera.
The selfie game strong.
Yes. Oh my, so fuzzy, so blurry. But you can tell us that we were like, that was our generation. We were like, oh my gosh, you got the camera. And and then, the iPhone, like the birth of the iPhone, and the apps on the phone. And I saw basically I had a vision. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be something that is so powerful basically we're not going to be able to live without our phone. So if I want to make the most impact and the heaviest like impact as a developer, I think mobile is the way to go. So that's all I was really after, was impact, influence, having that reach, just being in people's pockets, and yeah, so that's really what pulled me towards mobile development. I was really, really attracted to it. So I had this whole plan in mind. I went to college, did about a year of that in computer science. And I ended up dropping out. I ended up dropping out for several reasons. One being financial reasons, and not on the academic side, but mostly I actually moved to California to go to school. So from Atlanta to California. So there was issues with the room and board. There was issues also with just kind of the environment, shall I say, the environment. There was no foundation for computer science students at my school, and I would say, like, if you're going to go to college for something as niche as computer science, you need to go to an institution that has a foundation for that kind of community, like for that kind of profession, because, that's really what you go to school for. You go to school for the network. You go to school for the foundation. You go to school for the platform to be able to excel to the next level, post-graduation. So my school didn't have any of that. They basically treated computer science as an elective. And there was no, I had to beg for a tutor. I had to beg for any kind of just opportunities like that. No, there at the college, put it like this, at the career fair, no one was looking for computer science. They didn't have any recruiters come specifically looking for programmers or anything like that. They were looking for people in marketing and in X, Y, and Z. So again, my computer science department, they really didn't even care. Not to mention just, again, the social structure, no women in the classroom, me being one of three women and the only woman a woman of color in the undergraduate program. So it was just a lot. Mm. Everything was I felt like it was pushing me out. And I took the leap. My mom was my biggest cheerleader, surprisingly. And I'm going on and on, but I promise you, we're getting to the promised land. But yeah, so basically left school, and I decided I'm not going to, after a moment of being lost and trying to figure out where I'm going to go, what's going to happen next, how am I going to basically move forward? I decided that, you know what? I'm still me. I'm still going to push forward. I'm still smart, Timirah, who loves computers, and I'm gonna run with it. I'm gonna go with my dream of mobile development. And when I looked online, I was highly, highly upset. All of these free resources that I was missing out on just because I didn't look into it. I just said, okay, I got to go to college. I got to go to, and I looked online, and basically the first thing I saw was Stanford's free CS 101 course. And I was heated. I was because I went to a private 4-year university, and I'm like, oh, this is a waste of money. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was like,
I'm right
oh my gosh, this is a waste. And so I kind of just drowned myself in any kind of mobile development resources, courses. I didn't have any job or anything like that. I just kind of went for it. I lived with my mom, who had moved out. She didn't know I was leaving school. She didn't. We didn't plan for that. But she moved out to California to kind of, our family moved out there. So I was so grateful for that. So I was able to stay with my mom, and she just helped me through everything. And I really, really just studied in my craft. So I got into iOS development. That kind of drew me in. And I just focused on that. A lot of people talking about getting started in mobile development, choose a route, explore and choose a route. You have to sharpen your skills in one area before you try to just, go into everything at once. There's so many different resources and so many different technologies out there, and it's good to try them, but you want to make sure you become an expert in at least one. You want to be strong in at least one of them in order to be valuable and have some valuable skills when it comes to starting your career. So I focus in iOS development. Fast forward, me landing my first role in as an iOS engineer here in LA. And onward and forward from there. That was kind of my journey.
That's awesome.
That's so cool. It's really cool to meet someone who's so versatile in their skill set. Like you mentioned, you did web development and you did iOS development and design. And it's you can really, it was cool to see that you tested out a bunch of different things and then found the one that you were really passionate about. And I also think it's really great that you just told your story about how you actually left college, because I think that'll resonate with many people. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
That really
yeah. And I was so nervous about that because I was just when I first left, I didn't know that the industry, the developer community was filled with mostly college dropouts, basically. And I just felt what am I going to do? I have no, school is structure. I'm I have no structure. I have no, that's how I'm going to get the jobs. How am I going to? And when I really did the research again, I was oh my gosh, the pillars of the industry are made up of college dropouts. Oh my goodness. So I'm I can do this. I can do this. I'm just not going to worry about, trying to catch up with this or catch up. I'm in my own space. I'm not comparing that's another thing that I enjoy by studying myself. I wasn't comparing myself to anybody. I wasn't saying this student is farther along than I am. And I really had a chance to dive into what, that just being an autodidact, basically.
That's very true. I think I just tweeted about that today. I'm if the day that you stop comparing yourself to other people and you start comparing yourself to yourself, is when you make the most progress. And my shout out at the end of this episode will be a book that actually helped me come to this realization.
Yes.
So stay tuned to the end for that. But I'm curious, what is your day-to-day what can a mobile dev expect day-to-day?
A mobile developer, let's see. Well, and it all depends on the company, right? Now, myself, I worked with mostly startups, and it was pretty much a similar process. So a typical day for me was coming into the office and really, I guess, about 15 to 30 minutes within us, coming into the office, there would be a stand-up. We would go over the things that we kind of accomplished the day before or throughout the week, building up into the day before. And some issues that we came across that we may be struggling with. We need help from other members on the team, or just kind of throwing it out there and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, X, Y, and Z. And then, people from, other members of the team will kind of open themselves up and say, hey, I can help with that, or just kind of give their input on it. And also kind of declare your goals for the rest of that day or what you're trying to get done. So there'll be anywhere from, depending upon how big your team is and what the standard is as far as how long your stand-up should be. It should be anywhere from the first 30 minutes to an hour. So you do your stand-up, And basically, you knock out your goals for that day. It can be anything from, feature add-ons to bug fixes to, working on an SDK to also, again, helping out another team member on something that they may have been struggling with. So, it can really, really vary. It's just like it's not too far off from, a normal, basically SWE role. You kind of knock out the tickets and, it's just, the fun is in the process. The fun is in the code. So if you love coding, you love building, you love learning, your day is going to be full of that. You love just the feeling of, really challenging yourself. Mobile development, no matter how much of an expert you are, can be a positive challenge for you. So it's constantly changing, no matter which technology. It could be iOS, it could be Android, it could be whatever. It's the market is constantly changing. So you're always learning new things, and then seeing your awesome results in the user's hands, of course.
That's awesome. Okay, so again, we're total newbies to the world of mobile dev. So what technologies go into first mobile development in general? What does that whole ecosystem look like? But then also specifically, what does an iOS dev work with?
So let's say, I'm not even going to give it a background, just any kind of background, starting with mobile development. There's so many different things. You can be really overwhelmed with the variety of different technologies and languages also that are, that support mobile development or geared towards mobile development. One of the more popular ones, especially that web developers are running to, of course, that are more like on the cross-platform side, meaning you maybe want to start with something that is not so niche to one device or one OS. That would be something like React Native, right? So React Native, for those you don't know, React Native is a framework that was built by Facebook. And you can use JavaScript basically to build iOS applications as well as Android applications. So it's become really, really popular, not only just because, Facebook is kind of the big platform and the big, just entity that pushes it, but just basically it's so easy to get started. And a lot of people have, especially coming from that web development realm, something that's really, really comfortable. It's just really an additional framework when you look at it. And there's so many different frameworks, of course, when it comes to JavaScript. But but React Native is just one of those things that is probably the most convenient when it comes to just getting started, and also, again, having that cross-platform kind of flexibility, and not just catering to like one device or platform. So React Native is probably the top one, and just getting started with that, you would just need that JavaScript experience, which I feel like JavaScript is such a powerful language, and this is such a deep, deep, deep community to be a part of. Just developers who are more savvy when it comes to using JavaScript, the love-hate relationship that developers have with it. But it's definitely one of the more flexible and just supported languages out there. So that's a good one. And then if you want to go more niche, so before we go to niche, there's another one that I do want to mention that I've actually played around with as well. So there's another framework that is really popular as well for cross-platform development. And that is Flutter. Okay. And Flutter is a framework that was actually created by Google. That it's a little bit more different just because it's not something that you can use with a prior language, right? A language that you're coming from your familiar language. You have to learn a new language called Dart, which was created by Google. So a lot of people get confused. They're like, "Oh, I'm building with Flutter," and Flutter is the framework that you're using and that you're building with, and Dart is the actual language that you're utilizing throughout that process. So learning Dart. And Dart is a very simple, fairly simple language to learn. Google has done a great job of really spreading that awareness and building community around Flutter, and really just having a lot of resources, documentation, video, just like there's so much just support and resources around Flutter, and they're continuing to just build and expand on it. So Flutter is another friendly language to friendly framework to play around with if you have the time and the patience to play around with a new language, which is Dart.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that Dart was the language and then Flutter was the framework, because I'd heard about all these things, but when you're not in the realm of like mobile dev or backend dev, for example, like you hear frameworks for backend dev, and I'm like, I didn't even know that was a framework. So that explanation was really spot on. Thank you.
Yeah, and some people Flutter, I don't know why Flutter is more it has more visibility than the actual language Dart. So yeah, I don't know. So people don't know that Dart is, you have to learn Dart. But how they have you kind of get started, it's just the onboarding is really, really easy. They've done a great job with all the resources for onboarding new developers and new developers who are trying to learn. So it's really great. I'm just a fan of great developer experiences. So yeah. So iOS development, when you're getting started in iOS development, of course there's the King Apple kind of situation, right? Where everyone knows that you have to use an Apple language to build on an Apple platform, using an Apple built, IDE, and to build for Apple devices, to build Apple products for Apple devices. So that's kind of the hierarchy there, and where it gets really niche. Okay, and I won't say tricky because for a lot of reasons it can be a lot more convenient because it's more focused, it's more narrow. You kind of know where all the things are. There are a lot less. It's a lot less variability in platforms that you can use, right? So there's a straight line when it comes to this path of iOS development. So so let's say you just want to get started. Right now, the primary language for iOS development is Swift. So you ladies familiar with Swift, or how do you feel about Swift?
I tried to read a book on it once and I got 4 pages in and I'm like, I'm not starting for this.
Oh no. Oh my gosh. That is you
reading books about this is probably not the best way to get excited about it. I should have watched a course, but at the time I didn't know about online courses. Yeah. I don't know why.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And I wish you would have come to me. Yes. We need to.
This was back when I was back in college at the time. I think I was probably a sophomore in college, and I was like, "Oh, mobile dev looks cool." And then I didn't know that there's a whole online ecosystem for learning.
Oh my gosh!
I mentored a middle school hackathon, and they were all using Swift. But that's my only experience with Swift is mentoring that a bunch of middle schoolers.
Wow! You know what? And to hear you say, you're like, oh my gosh, like Swift is not so exciting, or like beginner friendly. No, like, because here's the thing, I always base my grounds on like promoting Swift on like, it's so simple to get started. It's so easy, so clean, so precise. That's kind of like my whole spiel on Swift. And granted, like, Swift came out. Swift is about, I don't know, 6 years old. It's still not that old. So like, that was another thing when it first came out. Because Objective-C was the primary language for like over 3 decades for iOS development, and then Swift just came out like 6 years ago, and so people were a little bit skeptical. It was something that was super new, and of course, there wasn't a lot of resources around it to get started. It was just new, but people who were in the iOS community, they were a little more like, oh, okay, this is simple. This is something, and yeah, so it's a little bit, it's tricky because like, it's still kind of a new language, but it has grown so much in terms of like resources and like getting started. And like, I promise you, it's so much easier to get started now with Swift. And like, Swift has grown actually in so many different ways. You don't even have to build for iOS development with Swift primarily anymore. Like, Swift has grown in so many ways. Like, you can use Swift on the server now. I'm sure you've seen some things about server-side Swift. You might have seen some things like, and like big companies are adopting it. There's AWS and, just there's so many different platforms are like really starting to add on, support for Swift. So yeah, you can use Swift on the back end. You can, Swift is also an open source language now. So that opened up a whole kind of thing where now the community is able to contribute and like build this language together. So that was a huge, huge deal. But yeah, so like just getting started with iOS development, primary language, you want to learn Swift. You want to, of course, Xcode is the primary IDE. Now, again, Swift has grown in support, so now you can use it with Sublime. You can use it with all these different IDEs now. So it's not just limited to Xcode, which is different for people in the iOS community. We always used to like, oh, building for iOS, you have to use Xcode. So yeah, it's a bit refreshing, but I would recommend starting with Xcode because you have all the native components when it comes to building for an iOS experience, a true native iOS experience. So definitely using Xcode to build. Also, being a part of Apple's developer program, okay, which is about, I believe it's $100 a year, $99 a year to be a part of and just, have that membership. What that does is that gives you a developer profile to publish, to be, to publish your app into the App Store. And so, yeah, so you kind of have that $99 a year membership, and that allows you to properly test out via Xcode, test out your applications, and also publish them via the in the App Store. So you want to do that, and building out. You want to learn as much as possible. There's YouTube. I'm going to shout out myself. I put out a lot of like iOS content, and even just my old content as well. And, I'm available on Twitter as well. You can always ask me any kind of like iOS questions or just mobile questions. But just getting started, there's like Apple does a great job of documentation as well and providing a platform for onboarding. And it's such a huge, huge community to be a part of. There's so many different resources just to get started and build something super simple and super cool, especially using Swift. And Swift is also really good. Like if you're coming from a JavaScript background, there's a lot of familiarity in the syntax. So that's probably the best thing. And it's grown so much. Like I said, since like 6 years ago when it first came out, it's gotten a lot simpler, a lot more performative, just a lot just faster, and the syntax has gotten a lot smoother. And Swift is really a language that is really built on just legibility and just being concise and precise. And yeah, so that's kind of the jump starter kit for getting into iOS development.
That's awesome. I think you touched on this, but how do you actually get your app accepted and published onto the App Store?
Oh, that is a great question. That is a great question, because sometimes like you're scared to get your foot through the door, and you're just like trying to get past. You're past the hello world, but you're really just in project land, and you don't want to limit yourself in terms of not actually publishing something. That's what really pushed me through the door and getting my first iOS engineering role. Being a college dropout, I did not have the opportunity to have an internship or be eligible for an internship. I didn't have any prior experience. I really had to go on whatever I had done on GitHub. And I said, what can I do to stand out? And I wanted to publish something into the App Store. And that kind of beefed me up. Just being, having something that was published and users were actually using. So, all right. So step one, before you get too happy and you're like, yes, I want to publish the things. I want to do all the things. Well, I would definitely strongly encourage you to make sure that your app complies with the Apple design guidelines. Okay, so you want to review the Apple design guidelines. You can Google it. You can go on Apple's website and you can look up the Apple design guidelines. And really, they want to know, they're going to do a review process, which I've heard. My first application, I got super, super blessed because it was, I think it took like 5 days at the time. I think the average time took about 8 days, but I've heard horror stories of 3 weeks, a month. And I've heard like horror stories of not only just the waiting time, but also having the app go through several different rounds of review just because, again, something was super buggy. It just didn't comply with the design guidelines. So I made sure I did my research. Okay. So before you submit, you want to make sure that you test your app for crashes and bugs, right? You want to ensure that, all the app information and metadata is complete and accurate. You want to make sure that, you enable your backend. If you're using a third party, you enable, your backend services. So it just basically make sure it's in its full form. Okay. So that the reviewers can properly kind of go through the process. Whatever the user is going to do, they need to be able to go through the whole flow. Okay. And again, complying with those design guidelines and making sure that you're using assets that are legal to use. Also, they're looking that up as well. I used to use, and you can always create your own, right? You can use Sketch or Figma or whatever platforms you use to create your own assets in a mobile app. But you can there's different websites that you can use that you can they allow you to add them into your application that are free, that are royalty free, that are free for creative use. But you want to make sure all of that is kind of cool, and they want to make sure there's no like, I mean, I don't want to say plagiarism, but more so like you're not stealing assets, basically. Yeah, so basically keeping up with those design guidelines, making sure it's nice and bug free for the most part. The average time, like I said, you submit it, and the average time for review is like 5 to 7 days. And voila, your app should be live and running and in users' hands in no time.
That's awesome.
That's really great. That's very useful too, because I would never have thought to go look at the design guidelines before. Just like I would totally just blind submit it and have no idea. But I'm curious, just to kind of like wrap things up, if someone listening is interested in getting into mobile dev or they're about to have their first interview, what can they expect out of a mobile development technical interview?
Oh, yes. So let me speak to especially like the iOS interview process. And it's different. So for example, I've interviewed with Apple before. And this is like, I would say fairly recent. So I believe it's still actually it is more in quite the same. I've spoken with a few peers of mine, and the interview process is pretty much kind of the same flow. It's one of the better interview processes also. Basically, after applying, you have an initial call, just kind of seeing where your interests are, where your skills lie, and then it's elevated to someone else, someone who is a little more technical, and it's still not a technical like debriefing where they're just like really, really going in on you. It's again just to see where your skill set is. They're not giving you any like trick questions or anything. They're just really trying to see where you are. And then they say, okay, well, we're going to send you a coding project. And they give you a timeline. They say don't spend more than however many hours on it, usually maximum 4. They say, hey, don't spend any more than 4 hours. They really shouldn't expect you to spend more than that. But they still give you, they don't do like the time test or any like specialized tests like that. It's really more so like the coding project is like build an app that uses this framework that does this. And this is like a real world type app. So let's say, okay, build an app that uses the iTunes API and, it has images, so we want the images to be, cached. We want this, we want that. We want to be able to categorize the catalog in the iTunes API. And so you basically go through all of this. You build the application. They give you a couple of days to submit. You submit it. They do a review, and they have someone kind of call back. And the callback again is not to grill you. It's just to go through whatever the process is. What did you do to accomplish this? And any other questions that they have about your code, the project in general, challenges you've had, X, Y, and Z. So then they kind of move forward from there. I think there's a panel interview as well. And then, hopefully a positive decision is reached after that, and offer, So that's more so on like just for Apple in itself. I do feel like that's that's probably the better side of the iOS interview process, but it differs so much. Interviewing for startups can vary. Like it varies from company to company. So like for startups, you typically get someone, you go through the phone call or whatever, and then you get on the phone with someone and you have some form of a technical screen where they're throwing questions at you that have to do with the Swift language. So They're questioning you on syntax. They're questioning you on frameworks. They're giving you scenarios. They're questioning you on terminology. What is an optional? Describe to me what happens in threading, multi-threading. Describe to me that process. Describe to me, X, Y, and Z. And you kind of just go on from there. They're kind of quizzing you. And then from there on, it can be some form of a coding, it can be more of an on-screen technical, an on-screen like technical screen. So basically, you having whatever their browser-based IDE is, and kind of coding like pair programming, or they watch you kind of solve a problem using Swift. So yeah, it can vary from there. And if you're going for, other than, besides Apple, if you're going for a top tier company such as, and this is where it kind of deviates. You're going to a top tier company such as like Facebook. I've had a trick interview process with Facebook actually. So and we had the initial call. And I thought the initial call was just going to be, just like every other initial call, we're just going over like skills and, compatibility in terms of like the role and things of that nature, experience. But then at the end, they just threw in the technical questions. I was like, oh, okay. So the recruiter threw in the technical questions, and they were mostly like iOS Swift based. It threw me off guard, but I passed. And then they were like, okay, so next step, we're going to do a coding project. And then after the coding project, we're going to have the review, right? We're going to have it, again, the engineer kind of review that. But also after that, we're going to kind of test you on data structures and algorithms, like kind of getting into more of the CS theory bag. So I'm like, okay. So I have to like study way off. I always get thrown way off whenever I have to go into that bag because it's so long. Like, think about the time span, right? You're working on something, you're building, you're using these different technologies. You're doing great in this specified tech stack or realm, right? And then, you're doing that for, I don't know, anywhere from 6 months to like 2 years at this one company. And then you say, hey, I want to move on to another company. And, you have to prepare something totally different outside of your skill set for the interview process. But they still, in the role, they don't want you to use any of those skills that you just studied for. They're hiring you for the skills that you've had from your prior role. So, having to go back into that college bag, it's always just a drag. Because it's always so long in between those times where I have to study. And it's just for such a momentary situation,
For sure. Interviews are such a messy process across tech, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much again for joining us on the show today and teaching us all about mobile development. Where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me all throughout the internets. But I'm mostly active on Twitter at Timirah J. So TIMIRAHJ. You can tweet me, you can follow me, you can DM me. My DMs are always open. Ask me questions, collaborate on things, so on and so forth. Follow me on Twitter. Also, the same Timirah J on Instagram. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Timirah James. And okay, yeah, I'll just throw my website out there too, TimirahJames.com.
Yeah, and we're going to be linking all of these in the show notes if you want to go check out Timirah. And the best part is she is available for hire. So if you are interested in hiring Timirah, if you want her for a dev evangelist role, where's the best place people can contact you for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe Twitter is still probably the best forum to get me. It's very immediate and very just my DMs are always open. So if you want to reach me, you can definitely get me on Twitter. And you can connect with me also on LinkedIn, Timirah James on LinkedIn. And I am looking for more of the DevRel role. So anything, again, to make other developers' lives easier, that's my passion. That's right up my alley. And building communities and just bettering the developer ecosystem. That's really where my heart is.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure, especially because I knew nothing about mobile dev, and it's always fun to talk to you. We didn't get to talk as much as I wanted to in Amsterdam. Yeah. So I'm really excited that you were willing to come on and teach us about
Absolutely. I could go, as you can see, I can go on and on. I really love it.
It's good. It means you're passionate. So we like to wrap things up here by doing a shout out to either someone or something that we are thankful for or we think is really cool and we want to share with the listeners. So what or who would you like to shout out?
I would like to shout out everyone who has contributed to the Black Lives Matter movement. I would like to shout out everyone who has, and I mean that in every way, whether you've protested, whether you've contributed, whether you've done something to amplify Black voices, whether you've reached out to a coworker to just check on them, whether you have just raised, just elevated your own voice and pains throughout the Black Lives Matter movement that's going on right now. It's totally appreciated. I want to shout out people who are struggling right now through everything that has been so traumatic for all of us, this troubling time, people who are dealing with mental health issues, who are dealing with that before all of this was going on, and who are just fighting through that and trying to just keep their heads above water. And people, again, who are also fighting for jobs, who have lost jobs in this time and in this climate, in this weird time that we're in, and who are also going through these interview processes. So I really hope that what I said, anything of what I said, helped you with any kind of clarity. I want to be a resource to you. Like I said, you can reach me on Twitter at Timirah J. You can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. But I want to let all those people know that you are seen, you are heard, you are appreciated, you are loved at this time. And, I just want to acknowledge you right now.
Oh, I don't have words. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. How about you, Ali? What would you like to shout out?
I don't know how to follow that one up.
My cousin.
Yeah. So a project that I think is really, really cool right now is the web monetization API. So there is this project to fund content creators through a subscription type model. And every time that somebody who is subscribed to the service visits your site, you make income off of that without advertising, without any kind of sketchy things. And I think that it could lead to a more ethical web. And so it's a movement that I'm really excited about. Dev2 just integrated it into their platform. And so I'm excited to see where it goes. Emma, how about yours?
So I'm reading this book called The Courage to be Disliked. And it's the Japanese phenomenon that shows you how to change your life and achieve real happiness. And it's very interesting because it feels like a nonfiction book, but I think it's based on Greek and German philosophy, and it's a conversation between a philosopher and a student. And I've learned a lot. One of the things that we mentioned earlier was focus on yourself, compare yourself to who you were yesterday and not other people around you. And there are a lot of really great sentiments coming out of that. So if you are looking for a book to kind of change your mindset, whether that's, I think in our education episode, we talked about fixed versus growth mindset. It touches on some of those principles as well. Highly recommend it. So, I just want to give one more thank you to Timirah for joining us today. And if you like this episode, just tweet about it. We love reading your feedback. Also, feel free to connect with Timirah on Twitter and LinkedIn. We have those linked down below. And we post new podcasts every Monday. So just make sure to be subscribed to be notified and leave us a review. Have a nice Monday.